Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, June the 18th, 2024. I would like to start out by reminding everyone that this meeting will be live streamed. As per policy number 7, regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves at its sole discretion via motion at any meeting the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of a meeting. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education at 7:02 p.m. and start out by first acknowledging that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqui-Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yayistil, Skekiyis working together, and Natsumat, Letsumat, uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart, to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to start by introducing everyone here this evening, starting with myself, and then we'll move over to Trustee Neufeld on my far left, Trustee Fox, Trustee Rye, Secretary Treasurer Isley, Superintendent Gill, Trustee Holly Dickinson, and Trustee Ward. Then we have as well with us this evening, Deputy Superintendent Woody Bradford, Assistant Superintendent Lisa Langeberry, Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shind Chand, Communications Manager Joanne Abshire, Barbara Bryan, exempt support staff, Paul Baboa, Technical Support Specialist 3, Vincent Montefrio, Technical Support Specialist 3, Mike Pugh, District Principal, Aboriginal Education, Penny Carnwright, Teacher, Langley Fine Arts School, Marlene Dixon, QP 1260, Acting VP, Jesse Calger, QP 1260, Acting President, Kim Anderson, LPVPA President, Taylor Photo, LTA President, Nancy Peterson, LTA President. Did I forget somebody? Oh, sorry, did I say, LTA, sorry, Nancy Peterson, LTA Vice President. My apologies, I gave you a new job. and I hopefully have not forgotten anyone. All right, well, starting out, we have an announcement. The month of June is recognized in Canada as National Indigenous History Month. During this month, we take time to listen to, learn about, and honor the stories, strength, resilience, and leadership of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples across Canada. As part of National Indigenous History Month, June the 21st is recognized as National Indigenous Peoples Day. The date was chosen to occur on the same day as the summer solstice due to its deep significance and strong connection to many Indigenous peoples and their communities. National Indigenous Peoples Day is an opportunity for all of us to celebrate the rich history, unique culture, and diverse contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. It is a day to recognize the immense contributions of Indigenous peoples to every facet of our community. On behalf of the board, we hope that you will take the opportunity to learn more through story by reading Indigenous literature or watching Indigenous films, by exploring and engaging in virtual events, or just having conversations with others. Please join the board as we learn more together about the history, culture, and perspectives of Indigenous communities across Canada. Also have another announcement with regards to Pride Month and anti-racism. The board is sharing that the district is acknowledging that Pride Month is during the month of June. This month is an opportunity where we celebrate the freedom to be ourselves and show off our colors. Throughout this month and throughout the district, staff and students are holding school-led activities and events to recognize Pride Month and our 2S LGBTQ+ community. Pride events are celebrations of the progress the 2S LGBTQ+ community has made, but also a time to recognize how far we still have to go to achieve true equality and inclusion. Wait, and just bear with me for a minute. I'm just going to do the report from in camera as Vice Chair Wilson is not with us this evening. We discussed personnel, property, and legal. Okay, trustees, you have in front of you the consent agenda. Could I please have a mover that the Board of Education adopts the consent agenda items as provided, sorry. Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, could I have a show of hands, please? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving along to consideration of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you. Could I please have a mover that the agenda be approved as presented? Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing no discussion, could I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, we have a delegation this evening of Be Amazing, an anti-human trafficking initiative, and I will let you introduce yourself. Welcome. Take your time. Take your time.
Oh, just that chair there. Goodness. Not sure what it is. So I'm on. Everything's good to go. Okay, so my name is Kathy Peters. I'm a former inner city high school teacher, teaching 45 years ago near the King George Highway, which remains a kiddie stroll today. My website is beamazingcampaign.org. My new book is Child Sex Trafficking in Canada and How to Stop It. So what is human trafficking? It is the recruiting, transporting, transferring, receiving, holding, concealing, harboring, or exercising control over a person for the purpose of exploiting them. Stats. 13 years old is the average age of recruitment, younger for Indigenous girls. In the cities, the target age is now 10 to 12-year-old girls. 54% in the sex trade are Indigenous, 79% in cities. They are severely overrepresented in the sex industry. 82% involved in prostitution had childhood sexual abuse or incest. These are the ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences. 72% live with complex PTSD. 95% in prostitution want to leave. It is not a choice or a job. 90 to 99% of prostituted persons are pimped or trafficked. So organized crime and international crime syndicates are involved. Crime follows the money, and traffickers make hundreds of thousands of dollars per victim per year. It is a low risk, high income crime. Only 1 to 5% of individuals get out of the sex industry. The majority experience mental illness, drug addiction, commit suicide, or are murdered. I've been raising awareness about sexual exploitation and child sex trafficking to every city council, regional district, MLA, MP, police agency, and school board in BC since the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act, PCEPA, became federal law in 2014. So the police would enforce it, the public would understand it, and be able to report it. The law has 4 parts. It targets the demand by criminalizing the buyer of sex and profiteers. Number 2, it recognizes the seller of sex as a victim who is immune from prosecution. Number 3, exit strategies are in place to assist the victim out of the sex trade. And prevention education programs are in place so youth, children, and the vulnerable are not pulled into the sex industry. So this law focuses on the source of harm, the buyers of sex, and the profiteers. The clear statement from Parliament was that girls and women in Canada are not for sale, that they are full human beings with dignity and human rights. This law is not enforced in BC, and there is lack of prevention education. BC is the furthest behind every province in Canada, so this crime is growing unchecked. Vancouver and Toronto are global sex tourism hotspots. Canada is a child sex tourism destination. The global sex trade is growing very fast. It's targeting our children. Children is where the money is, and it's fueled by the internet, where most of the luring is taking place. Contributing factors to a rapidly growing sex industry is globalization, unregulated technology, limited law enforcement, and very little prevention education. Canada has a new human trafficking hotline number, 1-833-900-1010. Provincially, we have OCTIP, and Victim Link has a helpline. Pornography is fueling the sex industry and is creating the market for commercially paid sex. Men and boys are the buyers of sex and are the key to end exploitation. There needs to be a focus on education for young men and boys to not exploit and sexually harm women and girls. So what can this board do? I have 4 strategies. Number 1, education. My website can be used for training purposes. Have my book available for educators and staff. There is OCTIP. That's the Office to Combat Trafficking in Persons. They have a free online training course that's through the provincial government. There's Children of the Street under plea, Tiana Sharafi and End Exploitation, Brave Education out of Alberta, and Joy Smith Foundation out of Manitoba. Number 2, strengthen the school liaison officer program. Schools are the recruiting grounds now for gangs and sex trafficking, and that's elementary, middle, and high schools. The officers prevent crime and protect the vulnerable. Officers have now been reinstated in Vancouver, but removed from New West and Greater Victoria schools, and organized crime is moving in. Number 3, every teacher in the Langley School District needs to know the human trafficking indicators and where to get help. This is done in Ontario. The handout that I shared with you, and hopefully you all got it, and I can leave a couple of copies here, has a list of numbers where you can get the help. And number 4, be proactive. Be aware of the new trends and put into place codes of conduct to address them. So I'm going to go over 8. Number 1, drug use is becoming normalized and accepted by youth. Once youth are easily hooked, they will sell their bodies to get more drugs. That is the tactic the gangs are using. Number 2, with massive immigration in Canada and a weakened economy, human trafficking is increasing. Number 3, sexting is becoming normalized and sextortion is increasing. Online grooming, luring, and recruiting for the sex industry is increasing, and there's a growing abuse of boys who are accessed by gaming sites. Number 4, there's an increase in the sexualization of youth and children, and the outcomes are increased childhood sexual assault and incest, and now child-on-child sexual assault. There's a direct correlation to them viewing pornography, which has no deterrent. Number 5, females now have fewer safe spaces, making them vulnerable to assault and rape. 6, there's a lack of digital safety training, social media accountability, and positive parenting support. Number 7, the unchecked development of AI, artificial intelligence. For example, AI abuse, and my daughter's a doctor down the state, she just alerted me of this, where boys are producing deep fake nudes of their female classmates and then posting them. So what is your district policy going to be? States in the US are starting to develop laws to address AI abuse, but it begins at the local level with a clear code of conduct and clear consequences for the perpetrators. And number 8, remove cell phones and iPhones from schools. I have 2 asks. Number 1, can I follow up with a deeper dive presentation to this board, the superintendent and staff and PACs, and have a community presentation like I did in Abbotsford last October. And it was called Be Well, Be Safe, Strategies to Protect Youth from Trafficking, Exploitation, Gangs, and Online Bullying. Number 2, could you write a letter of support for me to send to the BC School Trustees Association, the BC School Superintendents Association, to alert them of this issue, and so I could present to them. Thanks so much, and I hope there's some questions.
Thank you. We don't generally do questions with delegations, but I'm sure trustees will follow up if they have any questions. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, moving along to superintendent's reports. 7.1 board evaluation, annual board development plan. I'm going to pass this over to you, I believe, Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. This evening is an opportunity for me to share with the community that the board has been taking part in an evaluation that's been going on since August. And I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to come up so we can get going on it. So the board evaluation itself was facilitated and begun in August in a meeting that we had collectively, where we reviewed some information about where our last board had left off as far as their progress, as far as their evaluation is concerned. We as a group then in October were part of a facilitated, facilitated survey done with former superintendent and the CEO of BCSTA, Suze Hoffman. And then in November 28th, in a special in-camera meeting, we went over the results. Specifically, we focused on 4 areas: accountability to engagement of the community, development, and maintaining culture of student learning, governance, and board development. We will continue to work on the development side of things. The focus for us over the next year will be these 6 areas. These 6 areas are pillars that have been determined by the BC School Trustees Association, and we are going to be facilitated through these 6 areas by an external facilitator, probably Mike McKay. At this point, we're still finalizing who that'll be. That is the information up until now around the board evaluation and the board development plan moving forward. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from trustees? No? Okay, seeing no questions, we do have a recommended motion that the Board of Education receives the update on the board evaluation annual development plan for information as presented. Do I have a mover? Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Neufeld. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, can I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, 7.2 annual truth and reconciliation update. I'll pass this back to you.
Thank you, Chair. This evening, we're lucky enough to have District Principal Mike Pugh here this evening to help facilitate the annual truth and reconciliation update, along with District Principal will be teacher Penny Carnwright and support worker Tara Helps. Tara Helps is here as well. Want to, before we get started, just acknowledge that Penny is retiring this year, and certainly acknowledge her fantastic career, the impact that she's had on thousands of students over the years, and certainly her impact not just on students, but the district as a whole as it pertains to truth and reconciliation and learning in the classroom around the truth, the past as we ought to know it. So thank you very much, Penny. We appreciate all the work that you've done, and it's never farewell, as we say in Langley, and hope to see you back with us as quickly as possible. District Principal, please.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. ITSY LCM, good day. And it is a good day to be here and to share updates on the progress around truth and reconciliation in this district. It is a commitment that the district has put forward since 2015. It is a commitment that we continue to do our best to live up to every single day. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. And part of that work is honoring and recognizing those mistakes and moving forward together. But we do so with a good heart and a good mind. And that leads us to, as we talked about earlier, you heard in the acknowledgement of the territories, those guiding principles. The work we did to ensure that we're recognizing the two languages of this land, that of Hunkaminam, the downriver dialect, and that of Hulkamalem, the upriver dialect. That idea of Skekuyoys or Yayastal, working together. That this is not a singular piece of work, that it requires that partnership, that working together to move forward as a community. Guided by that idea of Latsamat or Natsamat, that one heart, one mind. And I've shared before the idea of how are we unified? How are we all connecting and coming to consensus around what is that one idea? What are we all unified about? But also, how are you yourself unified? How are you connecting what we often think of and spend a lot of time up here in our head about? But how are you connecting it with your heart? Chief Marilyn Gabriel stood here last year and talked about the need for us to get out of our head and to listen with all three ears. Listen fully with all three ears, not just the two on the side of your head, but with the one in your heart. So focusing over and over again, those guiding principles for us, these are not just words. These are not just an attempt to make sure that the language is visible. These are principles that we want to live by every single day. And it's important that we continue to come back to those pieces. As I said, these plaques are up around the district since 2015, the end of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And they are placed there as a reminder of the work we need to do. And I've shared before, and I'll share again, they are reminders of where our learning has come from, because we have talked about that there is a word missing off of these plaques. The word of truth, and the fact that truth has to happen before we can really move to reconciliation. But this idea is so vital. It's so important. How do we work together to move our community forward in reconciliation? And how do we ensure that those of us who may not know the truth, all aspects of the truth, have that opportunity to learn together? We've talked about before that the truth is not just all of the tragedies, and there are many. And it is an onion layer that unfolds. The more you learn, the deeper you get in, the more you hear about. But the truth is also about learning about the strength of culture, the strength and resiliency of people, and the fact that they continue and we continue to move forward, and nations continue to work forward in partnership, in relationship. Len Pierre this year shared, easy enough for me to say, Len Pierre this year shared that reconciliation is like building a bridge, connecting Indigenous and non-Indigenous people together. And unfortunately, for a long time in this society, the bridge building has occurred from one side. And I've done enough learning in my background as a science teacher to know you don't build bridges from one side and build over to the other. That the bridges build toward the middle and come to that joining. That idea of working together, Yayastal. That idea of Natsamat, one heart coming together, joining as one in the middle. And so that is the work that we continue to strive from with these as reminders. We cannot talk about the beginning, we cannot talk about our journey of truth and reconciliation without first stopping and honoring the beginning. And it's even more powerful this year knowing that we lost Josette Dandurand this year. But if it wasn't for Josette, for Sequia, and her son Wayanuk, and Cecilia Riki, going to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission final report in Ottawa and coming back to this district and calling upon the board at the time and the staff at the time to take on this journey, that we can do things together in great ways. If it wasn't for those three individuals, we wouldn't be down the road that we're at. We wouldn't be the district that we are so proud of. We wouldn't be at these incredible places that we've reached for our students. And I can't thank enough those three individuals for their work. And so it's always important for me that I take that time to reach back and start where we began, to recognize these three individuals who in their experiences could have easily said, I want nothing to do with the schools, but who gave of themselves and ensured that we as a district move on this path. Chief Justice Murray Sinclair is famous for saying, education has gotten us into this mess and education will get us out. And I stood here before, and I'll say again, I could stand here for hours and tell you about all the amazing things that are happening in this district, all the great work that is happening. But I think it's important that you get to hear from those who are on the front lines, so to speak, those in the classroom. And I bring to you tonight, I've asked Penny Carnwright, not just because she's retiring, but because of the incredible work she has done, but in partnership with the Aboriginal support worker at Langley Fine Arts, Tara Helps. And I hope that you will see in their presentation here to come how they live the values of Yayasthal, how they demonstrate over and over the values of Natsamat and Latsamat, and how they illustrate exactly what Chief Justice Murray Sinclair says, which is that education has gotten us into this mess, but it will get us out. And so with that, I turn the podium over to Tara and to Penny.
How do we change? We'll start. Do you want me to introduce, or should we do this first? Okay, I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Penny Carnwright, and I have been teaching for 32 years. And in my practicum at the University of Calgary, my faculty associate came to me and said, would you mind teaching on a reserve at a reserve school? And I said, because we understand you have like studied other cultures, because I lived in Iran. And I said, yeah, for sure, I'll do that. And so my journey began. I walked into the classroom, and the first thing that an Indigenous girl said to me is, I just want you to know that my father murdered my mother. And I was like, oh my God. And then I had this really, really tall Sarsi. He basically took out a knife and he started carving it. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? I just want to be a teacher. Like, what's going on? And as it turns out, I came face to face with the reality of Canadian history and colonization. And it was at that moment I decided I would spend the rest of my career trying to change what I had seen on that reserve. But a really beautiful part of that experience is I met elders who are working very hard to bring the culture back. So I was like, oh, okay, how am I going to do this? So I was employed by Langley School District, and it was really interesting because there was a teacher's guide for BC First Peoples 12. It was sitting on my department head's back cupboard. I said, what is this course? And he said, oh, it's a course. No one's going to teach it anyway. I said, oh yeah, I'm going to teach this course. And that began, that was another part of my journey. So here I am, 32 years later. I've taught 6,000 students, and 3,500 of them I taught Indigenous content. And none of those kids, most of the kids, except for last year, had to take the course. But they took the course because what happened is I went to the Aboriginal program and I said, I need to connect to some elders, man. Like, can you connect me up? And they said, sure. And I met Kevin Kelly, and that became, he would come into my classroom with Michael. Some of you guys know Michael. He was in diapers, running around, and the girls were looking after him. And he taught us so much, so much. So I think that what I learned immediately is that those relationships with elders, community members are very important. And I've been so fortunate to work with Tara, who helps me with culture on a daily basis. Go ahead, Tara, introduce yourself.
This is what we do. We kind of just go back and forth. Ansa tumako at tlit sanak nakamako ait tanashkwalo and kwazits kwatsnala tanawayel kwamkwam tashwali kwamkwam tatela e kwamkwam taslani ait sepfat CMECA. Thank you, everyone. I'm really grateful to be here with you today. My name is Tara Helps, my English name. My honorary name from Kwantlen First Nation is Tamakwat. It means female that carries the name land. And I received that in an honorary ceremony in 2012 while learning the Hunkaminam language. And I had the privilege for the next 7 years to continue learning that language with Sesmalot. And that name that was given to me, I take with a great responsibility of learning about this place that I live on, this land that I live on as an uninvited settler. My ancestry is Métis from the prairies on my father's side, and I'm also Irish and Scottish. And so I am also a guest here on this land, and that given name to me has given me so much more and enriched my life in the last 10 years. And I've been really, really blessed to have grown a relationship with Kwantlen First Nation, with Sesmalot, and with the community here in Langley. And so I continue my journey of learning and of sharing. So I'm thankful to be here tonight with you guys. And I heard Mike talk about Sequia, about Josette, and she was the first elder that I got to see present in the Langley School District to a classroom. And I'll never forget that story that she shared to a grade 7 class, talking about carrying that sheet, those tiny pieces of toilet paper that she was handed. And I remember when the teacher brought teacher brought Josette in, there was some nervousness about having someone come in and tell this truth for the first time. And that teacher was courageous. And that teacher was brave, and that teacher was humble, and she brought in the people that could tell these stories. And that's what Penny has continued to do in the time that I've worked with her, is continue to be humble, continue to be courageous, to truth seek and to truth tell, and to give experiences and perspectives to students so that they can grow up and to be healthy, contributing adults in our society as we shift this narrative of the Canadian history from what we were all taught in school to what is now being told, the truth. So I'll pass it on to Penny.
Do you want to play that?
Yeah, here, we'll share.
We wanted to share our acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry. We wanted to share our, maybe you can put that. I wanted to share these students, grade 12 students just graduated last week, and Tara and I have been working with the students for years on land acknowledgement. And at first it was like just, acknowledging the land that we were on and the nations. But we're going to play this to you because I want to show you growth. Yeah, I'm just going to, let's play it because it's so amazing. Yes, thank you. Nope.
Nope. We just really want Fern up there.
Here it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 graduation commencement. Thank you all for coming and celebrating this huge accomplishment with all of us today.
We would like to start off today's celebration
by acknowledging the territories on which we've had the privilege to grow to be adults we're today.
My name is Georgia Cardinal. My Indigenous family on my mother's side are the Cardinal family, who are Cree from Big Stone Cree Nation in Alberta, and Ghostkeeper family, who are Métis from a Métis community in Northwest Territories. I'm also a European settler on my mother and father's side.
And my name is Ashlyn Holloway. By blood, my family is of English and Scottish descent, but I've been fortunate enough to have been raised in family that grew to include both Polish immigrant and Métis heritage.
As uninvited settlers on this land, it is important for us to recognize the land on which we learn, grow, and create upon. Today, we stand on the unceded territory of the Matsqui, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Samiami First Nations.
I'm sure those are words you've heard dozens of times before, at the beginning of plays, dance shows, and many other gatherings. Just another thing to say before you can get to why you actually came. At some point, they began to be a requirement, a necessity instead of a meaningful acknowledgement from the heart. They may have began to lose the meaning of why we started saying them in the first place.
But why did we start saying them in the first place? We acknowledge the land as part of truth and reconciliation. It is important to recognize that this land is not our land and was stolen, that countless lives, cultures, and languages were lost, and more continue to be lost today. Truth and reconciliation is so important as the necessary steps to begin the journey of fixing the long-standing inequalities and hardships that Indigenous people have had to face because of settlers. It is the beginning of a healing between two peoples to fix the decades of abuse, mistreatment, and oppression that mars our history.
Reconciliation begins with knowledge. In our BC First Peoples courses, the grads here today learned the truth about our nation's history that will help us work on healing as communities and as a country. It's easy to get stuck in the view of, there's nothing I can do. It's not my problem to fix. Thinking that you can't help because you don't have enough influence or power to really make a difference. I would know, I used to think that way myself. But reconciliation won't make the impactful changes we need if it doesn't first start as all Canadians taking the time to learn about what happened and to start advocating for change.
It was important to us that we give this land acknowledgement to you today as both a non-Indigenous and Indigenous pair to represent unity and partnership. Because in order to make further long-lasting change, everyone needs to work together towards Netsama. One heart, one mind. It is vital to continue learning with and about the peoples who nourished this land first.
We would like to end by sharing some words in Hunkaminam, the traditional language of the Kwantlen people. We've been lucky enough this past year to have had the chance to learn from the language teacher Steph Smollett, an inspirational Kwantlen woman who works to bring life back to her traditional language. She visited our BC First Peoples classes weekly, teaching us about her culture, stories, and her songs. It is thanks to her that we are able to share the language of this land with you today. Aitswale, Siam Ina Siea, Antha Ashlyn Holloway, Tamitanak Langley. Ia Tana Tamosh, Aitzia, Squantlina, Shmekwia, Eastamiamith Masteo. Haizavka.
Haizavka, thank you all.
So as you can see, this is not your performative land acknowledgement. Took a long time for these two girls to come up with all the things they needed to say and to do it with courage. And that's kind of how all our land acknowledgements are. And not only that, but our students invite Fern and members of the Kwantlen First Nations to come to their shows. Right? To be part, and I tell you, we had such a blast with Fern. And here she is again. And I want to talk a little bit about radical empathy, because it's a really important concept. You have to, when we teach kids about Indigenous content, we have to be able to teach them how to listen culturally. And what does that really mean? So often in schools, the students are listening to you and they're maybe figuring out how to solve an equation, or they're trying, they're doing something that really has to do with the head. We're really good at teaching head stuff, right? But here, and the radical empathy idea comes from Billy Ray Belcourt, who's a Rhodes Scholar. He's Cree, and I teach his poetry in my classroom. And what he says is, it's not enough just to be empathetic. You can't just the kids have to open their hearts, they have to really listen. And when you have Fern Gabriel standing in front of you, you really listen, right? But not only that, but you have to take action. And that action, I like to call radical empathy. Because not only are you listening, but you're finding ways that you can make the change, like the land acknowledgement. Every student that now goes up to do a land acknowledgement will learn something from that experience. This is Fern Gabriel, and she comes in, Sesmalot, she comes in all year, she came in once a week. And it's so important to learn from elders and knowledge keepers, but not only that, to invite them to talk to students about their lived experience. My students love her. It's extraordinary. She has grade 12 boys dancing around in the classroom, being hooligan and being chased by a bear. And it's very interactive, right? Her storytelling, she's a traditional storyteller. So what my belief is, and what I think a lot of teachers would like to do, but maybe a little afraid, is that we need to, can you just flip the next? We need to teach kids that they have a capacity to take action. So we did the Moose High. The Moose High campaign is against violence. And you will see that Fern has a picture of one of her relatives that was murdered. Right? Murdered and missing Indigenous woman. And we just asked kids, come out, listen to Fern, and then we're going to walk. And we kind of taught them how to protest, right? So you can see that there's signs, like grade 9s made those signs. And they were given to the boys to hold up. And that was really Fern's choice, because she wanted to, really hit home that women are often the ones that are being targeted. But man, was fun. The community of Langley, the non-Indigenous community of Langley, people were driving by and honking their horns and showing their support, just like you would at any other protest. What did they learn? What did they take away from that? Well, they learned radical empathy. They walked away knowing that they could feel something, but they could also do something about it. It's not good enough just sitting there feeling bad. Want to throw anything else in there? Okay. This was, we had a panel for the 30th, and that is Cecilia Riki's father. He used to come into my classroom all the time. He was just beautiful. He was a residential school survivor, and he basically spent about, I think it was 30 years as an alcoholic until he realized that he could do something. So what he did is he saved a rainforest as traditional killing. And that tells the kids, you can be in bad shape, you can be feeling really bad, but you can do something, and then you can feel like you have helped with reconciliation. This is truly what reconciliation is. It's not listening. It's not just reading a book. It's about getting up and doing something. Want to flick again?
And I'll just add to this that the panel discussion we've had the last 3 years at Langley Fine Arts, and it's all been with the support of Stalu Arts and Cultural Society. And they've reached out to us to host these panel discussions in our school during the day, and then also host evening events as well for the community with the same panel group of people. So this is giving us an opportunity not just to hear from Cecilia Riki, whose father was a residential school survivor and herself an intergenerational survivor, but also hearing potentially from church community members and other groups that are participating in this truth and reconciliation work together.
And I do want to say that we sold a lot of teachers. Said, hey, his mother supplied them to she said, hey, tell your mom I sold a lot of t-shirts. It was Mrs. Cartwright. Open your eyes outside. I know. So how does that feel? He says it's amazing. Whole field of children from kindergarten to 12 warm shirts. Right? Oh, if Tara and I remember the first time that Tara said, hey, let's do the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women March in Vancouver on the 14th of February. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, no. And I remember calling her and talking to her for hours. She talked me down off the ledge, right? Because I was like, I can't do this. It was so scary, such a high risk. But I have to tell you, I asked teachers, I asked administrators, I asked counselors, and I asked 50 kids a year to hop on the bus and go. And it's so transformative. Like, it is unbelievable being down here because all of the kids walked away and said it was a spiritual experience. It was like all these people who had, and I'm sorry, but there's like murdered aunts and grandmothers, and it's like generations of how many of us into our histories. But they invite the kids to participate, right? They give them food. They tell their stories, and the kids are just there with them. And this year we also asked parents, and they were like, "We should do more of this in the district." And I thought I would like to ask the school board to come, just so that you can experience what it's like to really, like, after that, you're never the same person.
And I just want to add that, a lot of the kids were, shocked that it was so many women, so many grandmothers, so many children, that it was very communal and they felt very safe. So that was something that they reflected on and that they were surprised by, and that there was moments of joy in amongst the grief and the sadness and the loss, and that there's a huge sense of community there. And Penny, you said something that reminded me of something, but my heart went somewhere else. But it is a beautiful day, and I know there was this year there was a group that came from another school district, and some of the kids had been required to be there. So the only caveat that I would suggest is that if we're going to bring people that they want to go, that they're prepared to go, that they've spent time learning in their classrooms about this content, about this topic, and that their hearts and minds are ready to be in that space together.
Yes. Okay. Oh, this is Eleanor, and she's a Kwantlen artist, and she went to our school, and her brothers went to our school, and we decided to paint the doors so that as you walk up to our school, you can see all of the winged, four-legged people that live on the land with us. And so this year, for June 21st, what we're going to do is we're going to be teaching the little ones all the stories around that. So we wanted Indigenous culture to be first and foremost when you walked up, and we wanted to open the door to Kwantlen. So it's called the Door Project.
And also Eleanor was a graduate of our school, and her younger brother still attends our school, and he created the wolf there on the Stakaya door there. And so I've connected that teaching at the bottom, establishing ways for Aboriginal students to see themselves reflected in their school curriculum and communities. And so I couldn't think of a more perfect message to be reflective of both Eleanor's journey as a LFAS grad, and now out in the community doing amazing work all over the Lower Mainland, and her younger brother following in her footsteps and creating his own artwork, and to be able to still walk in that door every day and know that he has a place where he belongs and that his family and community is represented. The last couple years, again, we partnered with Stalu Arts and Cultural Society, and we've shared our space with the powwow gatherings. If you haven't had a chance to come out, there's one on Monday, June 24th. There's my little plug. And it's a place where we've come together to gather as community. There's a dinner that's served by Kwantlen. It's a free family event. The Wild River powwow singers come and they bring their families, and the little ones are dancing and playing in the gym. There's elders and community members. You're always going to know somebody's face there and get a chance to sit down and talk with them. There's cultural teachings that are shared. Some of it from staff in our district, like Carlin Andres and Deanna Miller, Hazel Gludeau, have come out to share their knowledge and teachings with the community, doing workshops. And you know, one of the big partnerships was our school offering that space, not charging a fee, right? So that's part of our work in reconciliation is giving spaces for Indigenous communities to come and be with us, be together, so that we can have an opportunity to learn and engage with them as well. And we've done that also with our theater. We've made space in our theater for our big shows to have seats available for Kwantlen, for their community members to come in and watch our shows that are happening at different times of years. And that's something that I'm hoping to continue ongoing. And these powwow nights are in active engagement with the community to prepare for the Stalu powwow that happens in September. Oh, sorry, can I go back and make one more thing? And just reading the little sign up there, and it'll take me to the next slide. Celebrate culture in community. You know, there's no better way to learn about Indigenous culture than to be in the community, to be engaged with Indigenous people, learning from them, listening to them, having that heart learning moment, not just about the trauma, like Mike said, but also about the beauty and the culture and the resilience and the traditions. And getting those one-on-one conversations is the best way to do that. So again, community engagement and participation. I've been really blessed to work with Cecilia Riki and the United Church at the Doubleday Arboretum, where we have brought students, staff, teachers, support workers, family members, and community members together. Since the 215, Cecilia wanted to honor the children that never came home, and a spontaneous memorial was set up there that continued for almost 3 years. And so we've been gathering there on the Truth and Reconciliation Day, the September 30th, as a community to share, to honor, to grieve, and to remember together. And this has been a really beautiful space for students to come and again participate in community engagement, to take on that leadership role. The first year, I think it was the first year, we were walking and we had students leading us with candles, and we were in the dark. And we were drumming and singing behind them, and we turned to look behind us, and there was just this whole stream of candlelight behind us in the park, and someone took a picture, and it actually looked like canoes. It's so beautiful if you ever get a chance to see. And the students were leading the way through the darkness. And I thought, what a beautiful metaphor. And so this is another way we can do that. That's not just in our 9 to 3 schedule. Sometimes it takes going outside of our timetable. Sometimes it takes going on that day that we were looking for that day off. And maybe, you know, instead of going on a holiday or sitting watching television, we're looking for these engagements that we can connect to community with. Thank you.
One school of 44 amazing schools in this district that are all doing great work. And I can't thank the two of them enough, but you see within there so much of our vision: flexible learning, learning that occurs outside the classroom, learning in relationship, learning experiential. And we had opportunities this year to come together as a district and learn. We had our Ensoling Our Schools series with Len Pierre, who had joined us the previous year at Odyssey. And his knowledge that he brings as a parent in our district, as a CATSI member, and the incredible work he does towards reconciliation and education. We had our Odyssey Day, full of incredible moments of learning. The picture on the right there of Drew Hayden Taylor, a renowned Canadian Indigenous artist, author, playwright, comedian. Not everyone has an opportunity to hear from him, and yet he flew out for this, knowing the great work that's happening. On the left, that picture of the Hayek's dancers, people of the Copper Shield. You might say, Mike, how did you get such a great picture? That picture comes from Deputy Superintendent Bradford's phone that was stolen from him during this piece, as it was about the individuals in the mask who were stealing items from the crowd. It was Raven, the trickster. An incredible shot of a mother and a son engaged in culture, engaged in education. I won't show you the video because I'll be honest, you get motion sick pretty darn quick with it. But these incredible opportunities where as a district we have been able to come together. Two other stories, quick stories I will share. On the left, sorry, on the right, many different banners. This is at the Whitecaps game. On their day for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, this was on September 30th. This was a project started by Luke Dandurand, where every student from Peter Ewart and every student at Yorkson Creek had a role to play in all of those banners. And in a moment of reflection, those banners were raised high. Many Kwantlen youth and members there at the front holding them up. I had the opportunity to be there with my daughter and her friends at a powerful moment showcasing the work of our students and the learning and the teachings they received along the way. And one final piece to highlight the learning that's happened this year. Because we often talk about what happens in the schools, what happens in the classrooms. But that set of pictures from Aldergrove, underneath those red blankets, is a house post that was carved by Drew Atkins. And the maintenance department needed to fix the skylights above it. And they recognized they didn't want to damage it, but they knew that there were traditional ways that needed to be followed, protocols, in order to ensure that, one, that it was safe, but two, that it was taken care of. And they reached out. And they reached out because of the learning they had at things like Odyssey, at Pro-D days, in conversation as we learned together. And the incredible opportunity for students at Aldergrove to be part of taking care of that house post, ensuring its safety, both physically and culturally, and then being part of it going back up. I shared last year, Kevin Lamoureux, it's important that the value of that logo from the National Center of Truth and Reconciliation, all of us working together to create that fire. And we not only need to ensure that we're learning on that journey, but how are we ensuring that we're creating those spaces? That's the work for all of us. That's the challenge for each one of you, for each of us in this room. How are we moving our learning forward, but how am I drawing people into the fire and not cutting them out? How am I ensuring that there are spaces available for those who are not ready to come to the fire yet? How do I make sure that there will be that space for them? And I end, as always, with these powerful words from a student at Aldergrove. Care about knowing more, even when you think you've heard it 1,000 times. Listen, hear, learn. There is healing in the telling of our histories. Reconciliation is in the willingness to learn and to listen. Ejka.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions or comments? Trustee Dickinson.
Just wanted to make a quick comment, Mrs. Cartwright. I know I ran into you at the at the retirement ceremony. And I messaged my girlfriend and I'm like, you'll never guess who I just saw. I saw Mrs. Cartwright. She was in your first First Nations class at Brookswood. And she is now becoming a teacher, and you are one of the reasons that she has gone on the path of social justice and all of that, reflecting back from your first course for First Nations history. So it lives on long and far, but I connected with her and she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and she's becoming a teacher next year. So yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Trustee Fox.
Well, and also lots of my students are nurses and doctors working as social workers. It's just, you know, when you teach that many kids, but still, I think Indigenous content transforms. You will never be the same after you have had a whole complete Indigenous course. And thank goodness it's a grad requirement.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge, last night I had the opportunity to, as did Secretary Treasurer Isley, go to Aldergrove Secondary's graduation ceremony, and Chief Alice McKay gave the opening address, and actually a former student of mine, Melissa Epp, was there giving the traditional opening. But we had two graduates go through with actually Cedar, what do you call them? Grad caps. And I thought that was really, one was Alice's granddaughter, so it was great, but it was really a neat piece in terms of their journey through the 13 years of schooling, and a way to recognize that their heritage as well. So it was very interesting. Appreciate it.
If I can just comment back on that, I love when our students or any students get to represent their culture and who they are at their grad ceremony. I think that's a really important piece to hopefully that we can move towards. I had a few students a few years ago that they made moccasins with me as part of their moving on from grade 12 in their journey to walk softly into the world, and they wore them walking across the stage with their cap and gown. It's pretty amazing.
Any other trustees? No? Thank you so much for being here. Okay, could I please have a trustee to move that the Board of Education receives the update on Truth and Reconciliation for information as presented? Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Rye. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving along to Secretary Treasurer's reports. 2024-2025 annual budget bylaw, third and final reading. Passing over to you, Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. In your package tonight is the budget bylaw that is for the 24-25 fiscal school year. We had already brought that information to the board at the last public meeting where we went and did an in-depth presentation as well as the first and second readings. Since then, we did have our budget open house on June 4th. And we had a couple of people that came out and asked us some questions. The budget has not changed. So just wanted to do a very quick review and then turn it over for the two trustees. Revenue, just over 307 million, with expenses just over 303 million. We have capital coming out of our operating account of just over $4 million, which leaves us with a slight deficit of $350,000, which was planned for projector replacements, and we have accumulated surplus for that to fund those expenditures. This is the graph showing where that funding will come from. So we had 350,000 that we had internally restricted for projector replacements. We are now using that to balance the budget and to finish that project to have upgraded all the projectors by the end of next school year in all of our schools. So, two motions for you to consider tonight. One is to appropriate those funds to balance the budget, and then the other is to give the final reading of the budget bylaw. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Trustees, questions? Trustee Fox.
Not a question, just an acknowledgement to the work that our staff has done. Secretary Treasurer Isley and our Assistant Secretary Treasurer Chand, who's done excellent work, and I love the term balanced budget. A lot of districts right now are having challenges balancing their budget, and we are in a balanced budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees? No? Okay. Trustees, could I please have a mover that the Board of Education direct staff to appropriate the following restricted surplus amounts to balance the 2023-24 annual budget. Internally restricted for projector replacement, $350,000. Moved by trustee Wright, seconded by trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Could I please also have a, right, good for me to keep going. We have a recommended motion on the, that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2024-25 in the amount of $389,929,643 be given third reading, passed and adopted on this 18th day of June 2024. Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion, please? Seeing no discussion on the motion, could I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Next item 8.2, 76 Avenue Road dedication. Passing this back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. There's information in your package on a bylaw that is being proposed to do a road dedication on 76th Avenue and 202A. This was brought to the board at the April board meeting where a motion was passed to put it out for notice of motion. We have not received any feedback on that. Just for trustees, this was a road that was required at the time of building RE Mountain that due to the time township accepted a right-of-way under the understanding that the dedication would be done at a future date, and they've now asked for that dedication. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees? No. Okay. Seeing no questions, could I please have a mover for the motion that the school district number 35 Langley, RE Mountain Secondary and Peter Ewart Middle School Road Dedication Bylaw 2024 be given first reading? Moved by trustee Fox, seconded by trustee Neufeld. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, next motion, could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley, RE Mountain Secondary and Peter Ewart Middle School Road Dedication Bylaw 2024 be given second reading? Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And next motion, could I please have another mover that the Board of Education of School District number 35 Langley approves having all three readings of the RE Mountain Secondary and Peter Ewart Middle School Road Dedication Bylaw 2024 at tonight's meeting. Moved by trustee Fox, seconded by trustee Wright. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Or any opposed? No, sorry, I'm not opposed. Any opposed? No. Carried unanimously. Okay. Now we're moving along to 8.3, 5-year capital plan. 2025-2026. I believe I'm passing this. Oh, did I miss a motion there? Oh, my apologies. Oh, I did too. My apologies. Flipped up a little bit too quickly here. Okay. All right, could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley, RE Mountain Secondary and Peter Ewart Middle School Road Dedication Bylaw 2024 be given third reading, passed and adopted on this 18th day of June 2024. Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, now we're moving on to 8.3, 5-year capital plan, 2025-26.
Thank you, Chair. Trustees will recall that we've brought the proposed 5-year capital plan to the Finance and Facilities meeting earlier this month. There's a fair bit of details on the process in the report. I won't go over all that tonight. I will go over a quick highlight of the information that's in there, but there's definitely more information in your report. Districts are required to submit annually a 5-year capital plan that they use for their planning process for the funds that they have to allocate up to districts. The plan that is done in the 23-24 year that we submit tonight will be covering the fiscal year of the ministry. It's 25-26 planning. The capital plan process now does include ability to include programming for childcare programs, which has been added this year. It used to be a separate process, but that is now incorporated in the same timeline as the regular capital ask for the Ministry of Education and now childcare. The requests that we submit must be in line with the long-range facilities plan. You'll be seeing that later tonight. And there must be a resolution from the board for adopting the plan. There are two sections of the capital plan called the major, which is due at the end of June. That's what's in the package for you tonight. And then minor projects, which is due in September and will be brought back in the fall. And Ministry also asked us to, as part of the plan, put up things that have previously been approved but yet not funded. So the district has several projects in that category. The business case for the secondary and the middle school at the Smith site, both of which the business cases have been completed and submitted to the ministry, and we're just waiting to hear back on funding approval. This year in March, we were given the go ahead to do the business case for RE Mountain's 12 classroom addition, which staff are working on, as well as to acquire a site in Southwest Latimer, which staff are also working on. This, and I do apologize for the small font, is the proposal on the package. Won't go through all the projects. We do have asks in for some modulars at 3 sites. We have an ask for 2 elementary schools in the Willoughby area, a middle school in the Willoughby area, and a middle school in the Brookswood area, as well as some sites for those, so that would be able to facilitate it. We've continued to ask for the seismic projects at DW Poppy and Brookswood, but we have put those out into year 5. For a couple of reasons, the ministry is focusing on seats instead of seismic projects. They acknowledge that they're still hugely important, but priority with the growth in the province has been focused there. And also, if you see what's on our list for projects already, it's quite an ambitious for a district to take on. So we put that in year 5 of our plan. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees? No questions? Okay. Could I please have a mover for the recommended motion that, in accordance with provisions under section 142(4) of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 35 Langley hereby approves the proposed 5-year capital plan, major capital programs for 2025-26 as provided on the attached major 5-year capital plan summary for 2025-2026 to be submitted to the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Moved by trustee Fox, seconded by trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving along to 8.4, 3-year financial plan. Back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The 3-year financial plan was also discussed with the board at the finance and facilities meeting this month. For the public, the ministry now requires districts prepare a high-level 3-year plan. So the detailed plan in year 1 is the budget that was just passed tonight, and then 2 subsequent years planning out at a very, very high level. It is for basically for boards and public to see high level where things are headed and to be used as a planning document. So just we'll go through that very quickly. In the package is a very detailed report on enrollment numbers and the buildup of that 3-year financial plan. We've assumed growth in the district. So on the revenue side, the only thing we've really updated is the ministry grant, which is done on a per pupil funding basis. So we've increased that for the number of students that we believe are coming in the next 2 subsequent years, as well as the supplemental amounts that are there also on per pupil amounts. We've left the other funding and revenue items flat. On the expense side, we've adjusted for obviously a high level estimate of what we need for teachers, principals, and education assistants, support staff and professionals. And then just an amount for inflation on our supplies budget. As we've seen over the last number of years, that need for portables in this district under the local capital. In year 2, there's 10 portables in there for a total of $2.5 million. And in year 3, it's 14 portables for $3.5 million. Based on these high level estimates, we project roughly a $3.5 million deficit and a $5.1 million deficit in the subsequent years. As you can see, a lot of that is driven by our need to pay for portables due to the growth that we have experienced in the district. Once again, this is just a high level budget. We also don't know what surplus funds we will finish this year or subsequent years, but based on the decisions that were made and the surplus funds that we have funds to balance the 25 and 26 year. What would be short $4.5 million in the 26-27 year. We still do have the unrestricted amount of just under $4.4 million, which would come close to covering that. But we do anticipate things will change, obviously, as we get farther in the planning and have more information on enrollments and those sort of things, and also with having surplus amounts for this year and possibly subsequent years. But it gives you an idea of the cost pressures that are coming with inflation and things that we don't get additional funding for. If there's questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions from trustees? No? Okay. Seeing no questions, could I please have a mover for the recommended motion that the Board of Education approves the long-range facilities plan as presented? What's that? Oh, sorry, did I, oh, I moved ahead. My goodness, I'm on a roll today. It's been a really long day. Sorry, guys. The Board of Education approves the 3-year financial plan as presented. My goodness, we haven't even got to long range yet. Moved by trustee Ward, seconded by trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, now we are on to the long range facilities plan.
Thank you, Chair. As trustees will recall, we've provided several updates over the numerous months that we've been working on the long-range facilities plan. We have Les King tonight here, who we've hired as a consultant, as well as our Director of Capital, Tristan Schaffler, who have worked extremely hard to get us to where we are tonight. The last public update was done by Les King, where we had a motion from trustees to go out to consultation on the long-range facilities plan, which we have done. and are now back with the final plan as it stands. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Les to go through that. And then there's a motion in your package.
Brian, Chair, Board. Well, it's good to be here at this point for sure. So just a quick recap for tonight, maybe it's the long-range plan is your strategic framework to look ahead at the major capital assets and think about what you might need over the next decade or so. The last long-range plan was 2017, 5 years ago or so. So time to update it now, looking ahead to 2033. Sounds like a long way. Board authorized consultation on February 27th. So since then, a lot of meetings were held with various groups. We met with all of the catchments and all the schools of choice, First Nations. We met with, through Brian, we met with a lot of internal groups in the district to make sure that people had an opportunity. There were lots of questions, but the questions were mostly finding out more about information. People know that Langley is growing quickly and they know that there are challenges ahead, so they wanted to talk about what those were. So they weren't making so much changes to the plan as they were just trying to understand it better. As a result, no changes have been made since during the consultation. What's not changing is probably just as important as what is changing. So educational programs or program locations are not changing. Most catchments and schools of choice can accommodate their growth. So Aldergrove, Poppy, Walnut Grove, and most schools of choice. And the only says most schools of choice because I think we're adjusting some of the fundamental schools in terms of just enrollment numbers. And then Brookswood should be fine, but by the end of 2033, it will probably need a new school. There'll be portables on the school sites, I think more portables to allow for growth. But in Brookswood, in the catchment, a middle school is a far better choice than another elementary school. So today, as a result of all the work we've done, key enrollment pressures are in Willoughby, followed by the Langley Secondary family of schools. 20 portable classrooms are being installed for this September, as you know already. Additions are proceeding at Richard Woolpit and Peter Ewart Middle and Langley Secondary. Construction of Northeast Latimer is getting underway, so a new elementary school in the north. And Ministry recently approved a prefabricated 8 classroom addition for Nickelmeckle. So capacity is coming. As a result of all that, here's where we think we are today looking ahead. Ministry has already supported a new Smith Secondary School, a new Smith Middle School, 12 classroom addition at RE Mountain, and a purchase of property for new elementary. So all of that's good, just waiting for approval to get going. There are new requests in the capital plan now, or in the long range facility plan for prefabricated additions to some of the elementary schools in Willoughby. 4 new elementary schools will be needed in Willoughby in the next decade. Like, that's a scary thought, but that's the way the district is growing. And by the end, as we said already, by the end of the decade, you need a new middle school in Brookswood catchment. You also need another middle school in, beside the one that the ministry has already supported, you probably need another middle school in Willoughby. And then the district continuing to work on reconfiguration to middle schools in Walnut Grove. So, and the request for seismic are the next two big secondary schools on the list. So those items are included in the long range plan as part of the look to the future for major capital. As a result of doing the plan, some things are, I think, observable and conclusions from the end. One is the move to middle schools is a good thing for the district and should be continued where you can do it. And that's generally seen to the recommendation in Brookswood catchment for a middle as opposed to another elementary school. Restricting enrollment to in-catchment schools is important and should continue. As you've seen in the Secretary Treasurer's presentation a minute ago, portable classrooms are going to continue to be required over the near future for sure. And then there's already plans in the long range plan for utilize prefabricated classrooms where they're appropriate. So the recommendation of all that is, I know you've seen the whole plan, but recommendation is to adopt the long range facility plan. So are there any questions or comments about that?
Thank you for being here. Questions, trustee Neufeld and then trustee Fox.
Yeah. It's just schools we need. It's wild to see how many schools that we need. Willoughby especially, but other communities are growing as well. Brookswood and the city when the SkyTrain comes in and is complete. I don't really have a question per se, just as a board, we see the growth and we're doing everything that we can to get students in their catchments, in their schools, in their catchments.
Trustee Fox.
Just a comment. Thank you very much, Les. I just wondered when you're moving into your new office in Olympia School District, maybe Tristan's got something. Maybe one of those schools that we've seen a lot of Les lately, and it's appreciated the work you've done. I think the important piece is the consultation piece. We've talked to you and Tristan and staff have talked to a great number of groups and people who have a stake in this. And I think that's, I acknowledge that. And I think it is a big part of coming up with the final recommendation. So thank you.
Trustee Dickinson.
Thank you so much, Les. An incredible amount of work. That's scary kind of immediate future that we're going to have to deal with. I have a quick question about, so we've got additions that are being recommended for Lynn Fripps and Donna Gabriel and a few other elementary schools. What is the number, the final number that some of those elementary schools are going to be looking at for students?
You mean per each school?
Yeah, like in just ballpark it. I am concerned looking at the additions and knowing the growth that is coming. I do have a few concerns about how big these sites are going to become, especially for the elementary school kids. So just kind of wondering, like, are we getting into that 800 and 900 kids in some of these sites, or?
Yeah, not in elementary schools, I don't think. The district standard sort of elementary school is about 500 students, K-5, right? Middle schools are up to 900, but your elementary schools are K-5. But as you build those elementary schools, and probably Northeast Latimer is a good example, that's the size. Once you get it up and running in September 2025, you will put portables on the site right away. So either the same year or next year, because that'll bring you up to about 600 elementary students per site.
I'm going to pass this over to Secretary Treasurer Isley because he had a comment about that as well.
So Trustee Dickinson, depending on the school, it's with an addition, I'll push it to the 650, 700 capacity, but if there's still room for portables, I do share your same concerns. The problem is time. The time it takes to build a new school and get that approved and built. We need to do something, and we don't have the land to put portables on. The modular DAOs allow us to go up and to provide quality space for students with washrooms that look a lot like the building that the rest of the students are in. So I think for us, it's least of all evils right now. We need space, and this is quick space. It's funded space, and it's nicer than affordable, and allows us to get space where we wouldn't be able to otherwise.
I think I'm all for modulars. I think it's wonderful. I'm just wondering in the long-term forecast, when we're looking at over the next 10 years, and we're saying there's going to be more additions, is that all modulars, or like, what does that look like for 10 years from now if Donna Gabriel is going to be getting additions added to it as per the forecast?
Donna Gabriel can't have an addition in a traditional sense because there's no space for it, which is why a modular works there, because it's the place where the portables. This is removed from the building. We can put a modular, but we can't necessarily do a purpose-built addition. I can't speak on behalf of the ministry of what they're going to do 10 years from now. This is a project that they're pushing very heavily right now. That they realize that students are coming faster than they can build schools, and they're looking for all levers and mechanisms to be able to build space and quality seats for students as quickly as humanly possible.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions? Great. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Okay, now is the time for this motion. Can I please have a mover that the Board of Education approves the long-range facilities plan as presented? Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving along to 8.6, school site acquisition charge. I believe this is back over to you. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. We discussed this also at the Finance Facilities meeting in June. So just a bit of an overview. School site acquisition charges are dictated by the Local Government Municipal Act. The boards are required to have a school site acquisition charge if they are requesting sites in their 5-year capital plan. The purpose of it is to collect funds from development to help paying for future sites for schools. These funds are collected by the municipalities and then forwarded to the district, which keeps them in an account called land capital, and they can only be used to purchase land once approved by the ministry. The last review was done in 2021. The ministry is now requesting that we do these annually, even if there are no changes in the proposed rates, which there aren't in this proposal that you'll see tonight, as we are already at the maximum amount allowable to charge for the school site acquisition charges. So we have spent some time working with the Township of Langley and the City of Langley, getting numbers of developments from them. So you can see them for the townships and the city. And then staff here have calculated the yields of students out of those developments based on historical information that we have to project numbers of students. So you can see between the two, just over 23,000 units and just under 6,700 students from development per the numbers that we've received from the municipalities. We've also talked with the township because that's where the bulk of the growth is happening. We can accommodate most of the growth in the city now that we have the Nickel-Meckle 8-classroom modular addition. These are the sites that staff and township believe are needed over the next 10 years to be acquired to accommodate the growth. It equals just under 40 acres and just over $213 million in estimated costs that we've received from township on an estimate on amount per acre. Based on that, there's a formula that is used to calculate the school site acquisition charge. The intent is that these charges would cover 35% of the land required based on the dollar amount you can see in the middle column there what the school site acquisition charge would have to be to equal that 35%, which is 4 times the maximum amount. There is a cap for each one of them. The cap being for the low density being 1,000. To achieve the 35% of the land value, we would need it to be at $4,000. So staff are not proposing any changes, obviously, as we can't raise above the cap that has been imposed. The next steps in this process, because there are many steps in these, is that the board is required to adopt the eligible school sites at a public meeting, which staff is proposing for tonight. Once we have a board motion on eligible school sites, we notify both municipalities who have 60 days to accept or reject the eligible school sites. And then we wait for the ministry's response plan, which they accept our eligible school sites and the school site acquisition charge. Once we have that letter, which is our capital plan response letter, the board needs to do a bylaw within 60 days of that letter. And then we would have to inform the municipalities, and then they would have 60 days to change the charges, which there would not be any changes. But that's the process for that. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Trustee Neufeld.
Toward, in relation to the SSACs, would you like to do that once we've done this motion, or wait till new business?
We can do that in new business. Any trustees have any questions or comments? No? Okay. All right. Could I please have a mover that the Board of Education approves the eligible school sites as presented? Moved by Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Get there. 8.7 amended 5-year capital plan bylaw 2024-2025. Back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. In the April meeting, we did a bylaw for the capital plan response letter, which is required for districts to do a bylaw to accept that letter, which allows the district then to receive our certificates of authorization for the funds to draw down those funds as we do these projects. Since that time, the ministry has announced a new project, the Nickel-Mackillate Classroom Edition. So they've now given us an updated capital plan response letter with that project now added. And now we require an updated capital plan bylaw, which is in your package.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees? No? Okay, seeing no questions. Could I please have a mover for the first motion, recommended motion that the school district number 35 Langley capital plan 2024-2025 capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 3502 be given first reading. Moved by Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Rye. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, recommended motion. Could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley capital plan 2024-2025 capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 3502 be given second reading. Could I please have a mover? Trustee Rye, seconded by Trustee Ward. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, make sure I get all of these here. The next motion, recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 35 Langley approves having all 3 readings of the capital plan 2024-2025 capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 3502 at tonight's meeting. Trustee Ward moved by, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And the last motion on this, can I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley capital plan 2024-2025 capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPST 3502 be given third reading, passed and adopted on this 18th day of June 2024. Moved by Trustee Fox, I believe. We're here, Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, could I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we're moving over to new business, and I believe Trustee Neufeld, you have a motion you would like to bring forward this evening, so I'll pass the mic over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the motion that the Langley Board of Education write a letter to the Ministry of Education and Childcare requesting an increase in the maximum limits of the school site acquisition charge.
Okay, so moved, seconded by Trustee Fox. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Trustee Ward.
You want to speak to it?
Yes, my apologies. Yes, you you would like to speak to your motion. My apologies, and then I.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So the SSAT is presently the sole means by which district. Yeah, there we go. The school site acquisition charge is presently the sole means by which a district can garner funds from new residential developments to aid in covering the costs of acquiring new school sites to accommodate the growth in student population resulting from development. The current district SSAC rule targets that 35% of the value of land required due to development is covered by the SSAC, but there is an additional cap amount that the SSAC charges cannot exceed. Within the Langley School District, the Willoughby catchments have witnessed unprecedented growth in new residential construction and an exponential surge in land value. At present rates, the required land for the new school sites is valued at $213,380,000 as per district staff. To meet the 35% contribution mandated by ministry legislation, the district would need the SSAC caps to be 4 times the current maximum allowable limit to achieve this target. The Board of Education would like to request that the Ministry of Education and Childcare to work to have these limits increased. And I would just like to say and add that this isn't just a Willoughby problem. We are going to see growth in Brookswood and in the city with the completion of the SkyTrain. And if we do not request the cap to be raised, future families moving into the Langleys will continually face the same dilemma we're seeing in Willoughby. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Neufeld. Moving over to you now, Trustee Ward.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the motion. I do appreciate the intent of this. I have mixed feelings about this kind of conceptually, because in one sense, we are trying to facilitate the construction of new schools. And so every child has a seat and plan for the future. But I'm not entirely convinced that as much as I appreciate the intent of it and I want to fill the gap where we can, I'm not so sure it's the best overall method. I realize it's the game that we have played, but it's never been really implemented to the extent required. And it seems to me as a monetary redistribution of funds method that the government has to make it seem like the local population, they're getting money from developers, but this money is going to be charged to new homeowners anyway. In my because it's always without exception, I've never heard one passed on to buyers, because developers have the opportunity to go elsewhere, so they'll always recapture their costs. So the idea in my mind is it's just an unnecessary kind of government thing. The only good that I can see of it from a conceptual standpoint is that there is some money from the local area coming back through the provincial government back. but we're gonna get the money regardless. So I don't support these charges anyway, because I just think it's a loss of efficiency from a government standpoint. I think since we have it already at play, I understand why you do it, why you would support it, because it's already what the provincial government has in place. But I think it's an unfruitful enterprise. And as somebody who would love to get back into the market with respect to owning something, I know that it's going to be passed on to the end consumer. So I do believe it has tremendously good intent, but for those reasons, I would not support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any comments? Trustee Fox.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it forward. And thank you for Trustee Ward's comments. I certainly see the context of both situations. I think we have to deal with the reality. It's here, so we need to move ahead. I remember when it was brought in, and I think it was brought in with some good intent, but it's one of those things that's on the books. Nothing's been done with it. I think Secretary Treasurer Isley mentioned that it's not been adjusted since its inception. And I think that the question becomes, if they're going to keep it, as per your comment, then let's make it more realistic as per your motion. I think we need to do that. The second thing I want to say is I'd like to just make a note, maybe tick a box, whatever the case may be, revisit this in January, see what the response is from the ministry, and then we have maybe formulate a motion to go to BCSTA AGM with respect to this. And it may be following your motion, or it may be following your comments that we encourage the government to scrap it, whatever the case may be. But I think we have to first challenge the government to look at it and see where they're going to go with this. So I support the motion. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay, Trustee Dickinson.
Talk to it.
There we go. Okay. Thank you for bringing this motion forward. I am going to support it tonight. I do agree with Trustee Fox's comments that I would like to see this go to the BCSTA. My concern is if we do get granted or the ministry grants increase in the SSACs, that if Langley were to raise them without the neighboring municipalities raising them, that's going to cause issues for development. So I would like to potentially see something in January, coming back to it, where Metro maybe as a whole can get together and look at an increase as a whole, so we're not pitting one community against another community. Because as Trustee Ward alluded to, the province is going to build the schools anyways, whether or not we have money in our SSAC account. I just don't want to see us putting our residents here in Langley unnecessarily out with extra taxes when other people aren't paying those same taxes in other municipalities. So, but I will support your motion tonight. I think it's good.
Thank you. Trustee Neufeld, do you have anything you'd like to say before, I believe, trustees, no other comments? No? Okay. So we have a motion on the table that's been moved and seconded. Could I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? Opposed? You're in favor? Okay. So no opposed. Carried unanimously. Okay. Thank you. So moving along to trustee comments. Are there any trustees that have anything they would like to say? Oh, Trustee Ward. Yes, it is.
I'll be delighted to say some more things. No, we're wrapping up the year here, and just as standard thing, just thank you to all the parents, caregivers, and all our partner groups, and everybody who's been involved in the education of our kiddos. So from senior staff to people cleaning facilities to everybody, just thank you for a solid year. If it weren't, we do the easy job of governance. Everybody else is doing the hard labor of the day-to-day. So I just thank you for everybody's efforts and for everybody who's helped. Thank you. And oh, congratulations to all the graduates. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Trustee Newfeld and then trustee Fox.
Yeah, I just feel on a personal note that I'm really starting to get my feet, feel like I'm getting my feet under me, moving forward. I think the board's doing good work. And really looking forward to a well-deserved break for staff, students coming back into September, refreshed, and I know that the board's gonna get back to work. So.
Yeah, thank you. Just to complement the two previous mentions there, but it's a busy time of year for us too, but a really gratifying one because we get to go to grads. We get to speak at them. We get to watch. I mentioned earlier, we were at Alder Grove Secondary yesterday, and I know each trustee is going to at least one, and they're all different. They're all unique in their own ways. And I wish the grads the best summer and moving forward in their decision making. And yes, everybody in the system needs a break. It's busy and it's always busy, and a break is well deserved. So have a good summer, and you folks too.
Any other trustees have any comments? No? All right, I just, and trustee comments as well, by just wishing everyone a very happy summer, and hopefully we have some nice weather. And I know we're all in need of a bit of a break, and myself clearly as well tonight because I was not quite on my game. But it's been a long month, but it's been a great month. And I too went to Walnut Grove Secondary School grad last night, and standing up on stage, as much as my feet and my back were hurting me after a couple of hours standing with Superintendent Gill, that's why we do it. And it's just amazing to watch those young adults come across the stage, and this gives you goosebumps hearing about all of the amazing work there and how hard they've worked to get there, and makes me understand why we're doing this. And it's for the kids, and it's an honor to have worked with you guys again. We've finished another school year here. I'm definitely looking forward to the summer, but also to get started again in September. So, and yeah, honored to work with you all. It's been a great year. So thank you so much, and have a great summer, everyone. All right, we're going to move along to question period. So bear with me for a minute, please, as I read the long spiel here. The question period is provided at board meetings. The purpose is to ensure that those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification concerning business conducted during that meeting. Priority will be given to responding to one question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed to the chair and not to staff, need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda, need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement, may not be asked that are related to personnel or directed at an individual trustee, may not be asked that are related to contract negotiations, and the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above are directions provided for in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may not be in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates the public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted with question period focused on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees also welcome questions from members of the public apart from question period. Their contact information is available on the school district website. Do we have any questions? Oh, looks like we do.
Hi, Neil Turner. If I can make a comment, it will be very peaceful, I'm sure.
Do you have a question, Neil?
I definitely have a question. I have 3 questions. One to say to Secretary Treasurer, what keeps you up at night? Because I go, phew, this has been a bit overwhelming tonight. So to quote a former trustee, what keeps you up at night? I just want to refer to it's obviously the schools and the schools that we need, and this is probably related to a comment about the numbers that was given in the report. So on page 185 of the agenda, I'm going to stick with Richard Bulpett because that's what we've talked about. The numbers in there seems to be with the new 6 prefabricated sites going on there. Has that increased the number of students in it? Because the graph actually looks like it's under it. I just want to read that.
I'll pass this over to you, Secretary Treasurer.
So the 6th classroom addition will add 150 seats officially to the capacity of that school.
With taking out the other portables, I know I asked this last.
They don't, the ministry doesn't consider portables in their capacity calculations, but modulars they do.
Okay. So that will
Consider it an addition, whereas portable is not. It's, I don't know what they call it.
So Trustee Dickinson asked earlier about the numbers, and they said in elementaries there are 600, and we're kind of pushing that up. It looks like it's projected at 939 at that site. With the modular going in and no room for other portables, what's the plan?
New schools. That's why we need new schools, and then we'll redraw catchment boundaries to shift kids to the new schools.
So with the new schools that are going in the Slope and in Smith, those will be transferred and distributed around there.
Same as Willoughby. Willoughby is also over capacity.
And I didn't even want to look at the Willoughby numbers that are coming.
You don't want to.
Again, thanks for your great work, and I hope you get some sleep.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so seeing no other speakers, could I please have a mover that the meeting be adjourned at 8:57 p.m. Moved by Trustee Fox, seconded by Trustee Rye. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Have a good night, everyone.